Coming up on Nakedage, how a woman raised in conservative Iraq reclaimed her body after oppression and became a bold advocate for nude living.
2021, I studied the psychosexual counseling, and then I started exploring the body freedom. Since then, I think I started exploring about body confidence, body acceptance. So it was like a big step for me to accept myself.
Coming up right now on Nakedage. Stick around.
This episode of Naked Age is supported by a sponsorship grant from the American Association for Nude Recreation Education Foundation. Learn more about the Annar Education Foundation and their mission, or make a donation at aanr-ef.com.
Welcome to Naked Age, a history series exploring uncommon stories and profiling unique people who have gone to extraordinary lengths to live a nude life. I'm your host, Evan Nix. In this episode, we meet Dr. Vian Aziz, an Iraqi-born gynecologist who discovered naturism just 2 years ago and has quickly become a leading advocate. This is Naked Age. In the 1970s, Iraq was changing. On paper, it was moving forward. The Ba'ath Party, which took power in 1968, promised modernization. Ba'athism was built on the idea of Arab unity, national independence, and a vision of a strong, secular Arab state, free from foreign influence. It was a vision that, at least at first, included progress for women. They could vote, own property, even run for office.
A world away from the rigid orthodoxy of the Ayatollahs in Iran, a generation of modern Baghdad women shunned the veil. Strolling unconcernedly in city streets in Western clothes, there's a way of life to be defended as well as a country and a regime against the incursions of Iran's puritanical revolution.
By the end of the decade, literacy rates were climbing, and Iraq was being recognized on the world stage for its progress. But progress on paper can be erased. In 1979, just days after taking full control of Iraq, Saddam Hussein gathered Ba'ath Party leaders for a meeting. The room was tense, and one by one, the names were called out. Party members he accused of betrayal, 68 in total. As he watched from his seat smoking a cigar, they were dragged away. Soon after, 22 were executed by firing squad. The message was clear. Loyalty was survival. With his political rivals gone, Saddam tightened his grip. Ba'athism's promise of unity became a demand for absolute control. Over time, that control extended beyond politics and into daily life. Early efforts to elevate women in public life were quickly overshadowed by an authoritarian state that valued obedience and conformity over progress. Women, once encouraged to work and take part in public life, were pushed back into traditional roles, their freedoms restricted and modesty strictly enforced. This was the Iraq that shaped Dr. Vian Aziz's early life. A country at a crossroads, a place where the idea of freedom fought to coexist alongside deeply rooted traditions. If you listen to this podcast a lot, you'll know that most of the stories we tell on Naked Age are about people who have spent decades living a naturist life, shaping the movement over time. Vian's story is different. She found naturism just 2 years ago, but in that time, she's made a remarkable impact, becoming visible and finding her voice. And in a way, she's found a new version of herself. And recently, Vian was kind enough to sit down with me over Zoom from her office in Cardiff to share her journey. Maybe you could just tell me a little bit what your childhood in Iraq was like.
My childhood in Iraq was, I brought up in an open-minded family. My dad was atheist, as I know, He wasn't talking about atheism, but he wasn't religious. My mom was a spiritual Muslim, but the country as a whole is majority are Muslims, and I've been brought up in two very conservative cities in Iraq. I was born in Baghdad, but then my childhood was in Ramadi, and then we went to Mosul. Again, is very conservative. The picture of a Muslim woman is, to be covered on the head, hijab, and like fully covered. Most of my friends were Christians, especially in the University of Mosul and the medical school. So they thought that I'm Christian as well. I remember one day there was a necklace with Quran. My mom, gave it to me as a gift, and the classmates were very surprised that I'm a Muslim woman because I wasn't covered. After that, my Muslim friends, they tried to convince me of hijab. In terms of personality, I'm good, but what's lacking me is the hijab and cover. One of the stories which I remember is that I loved cycling and, being on the cycle. But when I was like 11, I've been told it's inappropriate for me to cycle outside the house. And that affected me.
Just because you were a girl?
Exactly, because I'm a girl. And I'm like, I will have, sexual harassment. And since then, I brought up as a shy person, very shy person. I tried just to read and get, good high scores in my study. So for that reason, I was like, from the highest rank in Iraq, in the college, in the high school, and in the university. It's just because my concentration at that time, my focus was on studying only. No relationships. Even my friends, very limited friendship, 1 or 2 friends at that time.
Obviously, there's this cultural emphasis on modesty, and you mentioned you didn't wear a hijab. That was just something maybe your parents were okay with when you were growing up. They were a little more liberal in that sense.
Yeah, my dad, especially my dad, was very liberal. He allowed us, to wear jeans, trousers at that time when it's it's prohibited for women to wear jeans, especially in a city like Mosul. My mom, when we were kids, she allowed us to wear short dresses, but then when we grown up, she was okay with not wearing hijab, and she wasn't wearing hijab as well. I had a couple of times where I wear hijab, but then I regretted. On the second, third day, I regretted, and I said, this is not me. It's not like my thoughts. It's not, it's not me. So I just removed hijab. My mom was a little bit modest in terms of relationships. So, to get good husbands, we should have no sexual relationships or even love relationships before marriage. So that's the idea. So it was my first sexual encounter and relationship was my husband, who I met in Baghdad and I graduated at that time. I was 3 years after graduation.
Wow.
That oppression by the community itself and the society itself, shaping every woman with what we call societal expectation of being covered, being, polite, being, with lower voice, just to get a good husband. That affected me a lot, and affected my confidence, my self-esteem. So as I mentioned, I was shy. I wasn't even public speaker until now. I have this remaining bits from that childhood of, being shaked whenever sure. I ask, for a podcast or or to give a speech.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah, that's understandable. You're doing great.
Thank you. Thank you, Evan. That's very supportive.
I understand that you are a gynecologist now. Is that what you sought to study at the time?
Yeah, I graduated from Mosul University in 1992, and then 1994 I moved to Baghdad to be specialized in obstetrician and gynecologist. I finished my Arab board as postgraduate qualification in Iraq in 2000, and then I left Iraq in 2000.
You knew you wanted to be a doctor of some kind?
No. Being a doctor was the last thing in my mind. I was really into architect, being architect and architecture, and I was really dreaming of that. But then, because I was on the high rank in the secondary school, my mom and dad, they decided for me to be a doctor.
Okay.
And they apply for medicine, to study medicine. But then when I started studying medicine, I just it became my passion. And then and I think my personality might be as caring for people.
You said you met and married your husband after university. Was he Muslim?
He was Muslim. He was liberal Muslim. He's not religious, spiritual as well. And I met him when I moved to Baghdad to study the obs-and-gynae. He was a surgeon. So he was studying general surgery, and we met. And then it was it's some sort of arranged marriage through one of my friends, actually. So it wasn't even love story, but we matched after we met. And then he proposed to me through my family, and then we were good. When I look into my life and reflect on my life, I mean, I'm lucky in finding that man, because I could end with someone who doesn't understand me or my body or my sexuality or whatever. And he could be like a bad person, which I don't want it, especially for my children, especially for my daughter. I said I'm not, as long as she's adult and 18 years and she's mature and she's happy with her body, then I'm not the person to suppress her or, to do anything regarding her sexuality or premarital sexual relationship or love. Yeah.
You have a daughter with that husband?
Yeah, I have 4 children.
Wow.
One daughter, she's following my steps. So she's 3 years after graduation from the medical school. And she's applying for medical specialty now. And then 3 boys. 2 of them are twins. That marriage was good, actually. As I said, we matched very well in terms of way of thinking. And at that time, because I was on, liberal Muslim. So we traveled to Saudi and then to Dubai. We worked in Dubai for 8 years. And then I decided, no, Dubai is not permanent place for me. I should move to the Western countries where I can get a better community, better society for my kids, and bringing them up on more liberal values. So I decided I got the full registration to practice in the UK in 2010, and I moved to the UK with my children. And my husband, he stayed in Dubai because he couldn't do the GMC registration, so he was visiting us over 5 years time, and then he ended with a car accident, and we lost him in the car accident.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Wow.
Thank you so much.
So that was after you'd moved to the UK?
Yes, I moved to the UK in 2010, and then 2015, the tragic death happened. I think since then, that was a big move in my journey. After that, I started thinking about beliefs, about what I have believed throughout my life, about sexuality, about my role as a woman, many things. I was a spiritual person. I wasn't religious. I tried a couple of times of, cover, pray, fast, but I couldn't continue it. I think after ISIS in 2014, and then my husband's death in 2015, I started questioning my beliefs, and especially the way that Quran and Islam behave with women, women's sexuality, women's bodies, polyamory, polygamy, FGM, female genital cutting, which is still happening, unfortunately, and sadly, it's still happening in north of Iraq.
Wow.
Yeah, so when I started studying psychosexual counseling, I think I broke many taboos in Iraq by speaking about open relationships, friends with benefits, premarital sex, speaking against FGM.
These are things you were starting to become more aware of and things that you felt you wanted to speak up about?
Yeah, I spoke about in Clubhouse and on YouTube. I wrote about as well on Telegram channel, on Twitter and X as well. So it's just the studying of the sexuality allowed me to broaden my mind about how I understand my sexuality and other sexuality. And the good thing with the psychosexual counseling is it's not just looking for abnormalities, but understanding what's happening with people and how's that affect their relationships, how's that affecting their personalities and their lives.
Something that's relevant to everybody, really, in some way or another.
Absolutely.
So, I've seen you online described as feminist, as an activist. Do you agree with these labels? Do you feel they're fair?
Activist, yes. I've been a good voice for the Iraqi revolution in 2019. And since then, I think I set up my account on Twitter in 2011, but I haven't used it until 2019 when I saw the revolution and heard about the revolution in Iraq. And then I was a good voice for that revolution, even if I'm the country, but I was very supportive for that revolution.
After the fall of Saddam Hussein in 2003, Iraq underwent a process called de-Baathification, a sweeping policy that purged members of the Ba'ath Party from government. But instead of stabilizing the country, this sweeping purge threw Iraq into chaos. It gutted institutions overnight, leaving a power vacuum that deepened tensions and opened the door to corruption. In the years that followed, Iran filled the vacuum, backing militias and political factions and further fueling divisions. By 2019, frustration had reached a boiling point.
In Iraq, a dramatic escalation. Hundreds of anti-government protesters storming the compound of the Iranian consulate late Tuesday in the southern city of Najaf, setting parts of the diplomatic mission on fire, replacing an Iranian flag with the Iraqi one.
Young people, they were looking for more liberty, more non-religious communities. They were looking for liberation from the Islamic regime in Iran.
Do you feel that in some way seeing that from now the outside after you'd left sort of emboldened you or gave you some ability to speak to that or to people involved in that?
Yeah, definitely. That was in 2019. Unfortunately, the revolution lasted for 1 year. But then, because I'm a voice outside Iraq, I felt that I'm responsible for spreading the word about the revolution and getting more support for this revolution.
Do you think it's a coincidence that Iraq was having this revolution almost at the same time you were having your own? Like, do you feel like one fed into the other, leading you to naturism?
No, actually, again, as I mentioned, is atheism first after my husband's death in 2017. I think I considered that as a year of atheism. I read a lot, I watched YouTubes, and I started, as I mentioned, the questioning, and then I was confident that I'm ex-Muslim at that time. And then I started, and I have been involved with the Iraqi revolution at that time as a voice. Following that, 2021, I studied the psychosexual counseling. And then I started exploring the body freedom. When I was studying the psychosexual counseling, I felt the oppression. I've been oppressed since my childhood by that society, and millions of women were oppressed by one way or another, and they are still oppressed. Since then, I think I started exploring about body confidence, body acceptance, because I told you when I was a shy person, so it was like a big step for me to accept myself having sexual relationships without marriage, especially after my husband's death, and having a boyfriend or a friend with benefit. It was a big step for me. And then I started knowing a couple of people from Egypt, and they were naturists. Then I started exploring what's naturism, what's nudism. I started reading about the subject, and the first time I felt really free, and that sense of being, like freeing, it's just, any words cannot describe that feeling. When I tried being topless with my female friends on our holiday to one of the Greek islands, and we tried it on the beach, and it was busy beach, and there was no one looking for us, no one chasing or wondering why those three women they went topless.
Yeah.
And I was like very, very happy, very happy.
Because it was not scandalous.
Yeah, and actually all of us, like the three of us, they were the first time for us to go topless.
Wow. Do you think that moment changed you in some way?
Definitely. Definitely. This was the start of my journey in naturism and nudism. When I returned back to the UK, as I mentioned, I started looking for videos, podcasts, just to understand what's happened for me in that moment, why I felt so free, confident, and happy, just happy.
Yeah.
So I tried in one of the beaches, like skinny dipping just on my own, and I just loved it, loved the experience there. That was May 2023.
Wow.
I couldn't, describe the feeling. And then following that, another skinny dipping. And then at that time, I met my partner, Calvin, and he's really a good person. I love him so much.
And he's a naturist?
Yeah, he's actually, he wasn't too open about his naturism initially. I think he wanted to see how the compatibility, and we started as friends. Our friendship lasted for 5 months, and then we decided to move to another level. From the first couple of months when we were friends, I was talking about naturism. I was like ambitious about naturism, and that I did skinny dipping. I tried skinny dipping, and he was a little bit worried about me trying skinny dipping on my own. So he stepped, I'm naturist for the last 20 years. I said, wow. Wow.
So that was just a coincidence.
Yeah, he's just like, he said he wasn't sure whether to tell me that he's naturist or not. Might be he was like, he was afraid for me to run away.
Wow. How crazy.
Yeah, I know. And then we started exploring together, skinny dipping, naked hiking, attended Nude Fest of British Naturism in 2024 this year. And then that was June, July. And then Party in the Stark and Nature's Foundation in Kent. And we loved it. We just like naked dancing. And, after that, holidays with naked snorkeling. And I loved it.
Wow. You guys have really dived into it. No pun intended. So
and naked biking in Brighton. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. What was it like the first time you were around others in that way? Was that strange, having grown up in such a conservative culture particularly?
Yeah, I can't say it is apprehensive, but I was a little bit nervous, but that's nervousness with a bit of excitement.
Like many naturists, I think I discovered you probably on Twitter because suddenly you became very vocal about your naturism in maybe a more of an activistic way, or at least you became very visible about it. Was that a choice that you made before you did that, or did that evolve? How did that come about?
No, I think it's a choice. I believe in the idea of naked feminism, like radical feminists, naked feminists. I believe in women, they should have their chances, to explore their bodies, their sexuality, especially if they are from conservative communities like where I brought up. So I started posting in Twitter or X in January 2024. And my follower were, I think, 20,000.
Wow.
And now my followers are 50,000.
Wow.
I received very positive vibes from X, from the naturist community there. They are really supportive.
You've gotten a lot of supportive words. You found this sort of connection to a community on some level. I wonder if you've gotten much criticism since becoming so visible and vocal as a naked person.
I had sexual harassment especially on Twitter. It's just because Twitter nude photos and photograph to be posted there. So I had a couple, but I would say the positive comment and the encouragement, support is much, much worth the effort there. I just report and block any person who's doing any sexual harassment there. But I mean, when I'm posting on Twitter or any social media, I have Blue Sky, Trans, OnlyFans, even OnlyFans, people, they were criticizing me. Oh, this is sexual for sexual nudity. And I said, no, as long as I stick to my aim of promoting non-sexual nudity and naturism, I think I'm safe there. And sure. I'm really safe. I feel really safe there.
Do you think that there's something about naturism that can help women, but people in general?
Absolutely. Because of the oppression that being practiced on women and women's bodies, I think we still have lots of steps to go. And many can benefit from naturism or being naked. I would say not necessarily to go outside and, practice in the forests or naked hiking, but at least if you are in the bathroom or in your room or at your home and you feel safe to practice nudity, I think it's really healing. It has healing power, especially in exploring your body. And I talked about the mirror exercise when you accept your body with all your query imperfections that you thought, about your body. And you will discover how much beauty is your body and how that body has helped you through the years. And every scar, every sign or every wrinkle is just a sign of experience and how much you had in this life.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
I don't imagine there's going to be a nudist club that opens up in Iraq anytime soon. But what hope do you see, I guess, for people growing up in that to discover this sort of liberation that you feel you found?
I would say, especially for women, don't be afraid from your body. Don't be shy from exposing your body. What you had, you have been oppressed is nothing related to you. Is just idea with people who were trying to influence those ideas on you. So be proud of your body and take it slowly, take it, in safe space with people who you feel that they are safe and friendly, and you will enjoy lots of experiences, lots of activities there. And so just enjoy it and be yourself, just yourself.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you, Evan. Thank you. It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure.
Dr. Vian Aziz's journey is a story of transformation, of questioning, of reclaiming what was once decided for her. She grew up in a culture that told women how to act, how to dress, how to exist. But something in her resisted. First quietly, through education, through medicine, then more boldly, through activism, through speaking out, through choosing to live on her own terms. Her revolution didn't happen overnight, but when it did come, it changed everything. And in just 2 years, she's gone from discovering naturism to leading within the movement, from breaking free to helping others do the same. Her story is proof that change is always possible, that questioning the world around us is the first step towards something bigger, and that sometimes the most radical thing we can do is simply be ourselves. Special thanks for this episode goes to Vian Aziz for her generosity and kindness in sharing her story here. Thanks also goes to the fine folks at the AANR Education Foundation. Please support the AANR Education Foundation at their website, aanr-ef.com. This episode of Naked Age included music licensed and sourced from Envato Elements. The theme song was composed by me. If you enjoy Naked Age, please head over to your podcast platform of choice and leave us a rating and review. Your testimonials help us attract new listeners and share this fascinating history and culture with the world. If you find value in our storytelling and our reporting and want to financially support it, please consider joining our community newsletter, Planet Nude. Planet Nude is a free daily newsletter, but for just $6 a month or $60 a year, you can support the research and content that goes into the newsletter as well as this podcast. Subscribe at www.planetnude.co. Finally, if you appreciate this podcast or you follow me and my work on other platforms, please reach out. Send me a message or at me, or email me at evan@planetnude.co. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for listening to Naked Age. See you next time.
If you're someone who's ever wondered about the cultural aspects of nudity in art and the world, look no further than Planet Nude. At Planet Nude, we go beyond skin-deep discussions of nudism and delve into the current cultural, intellectual, and philosophical topics around nudity, exploring the way it's been used in art and activism, and the impact it has in our lives today. With a diverse group of contributors, Planet Nude brings thought-provoking essays and art uncovering everything from the history of nudism to the latest news. Join the close free conversation at Planet Nude by subscribing on Substack today at planetnude.co. See you on Planet Nude.